I've always loved trains. I'm never happier than when I'm tinkering away with my own train set up here in the attic. Signals, stations, sidings, old carriages, new carriages. It is the greatest fun. I'm Peter Snow, and this has been my passion ever since my dad bought me my first toy train when I was just 4 years old. I enjoy mixing different carriages from different eras, making my own unique train. Which got me thinking, what if I could do this for real? Well, me and my partner in crime, engineering whiz kid Henry Cole, we thought we'd get onto a mad idea. In order to delve into the history of the railways, we're going to restore 4 iconic carriages.
We're getting together a band of brilliant restoration experts from all around the country. Each group will bring back to life a carriage from a different era, from an 1860s four-wheeler to a 1960s Pullman dining car. We'll even restore a royal carriage and a Teak monster, designed by the man who made the Flying Scotsman.
I'll keep across each restoration. This is terrifying.
And I'll explore what it was like for the passengers who travelled in them.
It's so luxurious, you know, it is fit for a queen, isn't it?
We've challenged all our restorers to complete their work in 6 months, when we'll put the carriages together to create a real-life time train, representing 100 years of railway history. Isn't that a really beautiful sight? And the icing on the cake? I'm going to fulfill a childhood dream. I'm going to learn how to drive a steam locomotive. Couldn't get much faster.
No, just a little bit.
Oh, wonderful. So I can take our unique train on her first incredible journey. This is the beautiful Llangollen Railway in North Wales. Once one of the remotest parts of the British Isles. But in the Victorian heyday, the arrival of the railways plugged it into the industrial world. Trains linked Welsh farmers' fields with the markets of London, and Welsh mines with the ports that would send its slate all around the world. Lots of people think the golden age of the railways was back in the 1930s, when huge companies pounded up and down the tracks. But for me, the golden age was earlier than that, back in the early 1900s, when almost forgotten companies like Llangollen Railway built glorious lines like this in North Wales. It was an engineering triumph, its tunnels boring through whole mountain ranges in the quest to link our lands. The year this carriage was built, 1912, was the year passenger traffic had reached a peak. Over 1.5 billion journeys being made for business and holidays. And what's more, even if you'd only paid for a third-class ticket, you'd be sitting in a compartment more luxurious than anything you've experienced before. The humble coach had changed from little more than a cattle wagon with seats to something more like we'd recognize today. And this week's coach was one of the best. But its glory days are a distant memory. Built in 1912 by Nigel Gresley, one of the railway's most famous engineers, who would go on to design the Flying Scotsman, this carriage was once one of the most innovative of the era. It's known by the rather technical name brake composite. More about that later. And this is the team taking on the challenge of restoring her. The driving force is Peter Lund, chairman of Llangollen Steam Railway, and owner of the coach itself.
You know, I'm retired. I could spend my life playing golf, but I spend my life down here doing this. But it's an awful big thing to get personally involved with, and it does take over your life.
He'll be backed up by the Llangollen Railways team. 12 engineers, apprentices and volunteers with over 100 years' experience between them.
Going down.
Martin Perry started as an apprentice of the railway over 10 years ago.
When you're restoring coaches, one of them jobs which is annoying but rewarding all at the same time. Especially when you're on the roof and you turn around and you realise you've got to do all that.
Richard Smith is an experienced joiner, but this is his first train restoration.
I've never done a carriage restoration before. I'm feeling, looking at it, it's very daunting.
Normally it'd take them 2 years to restore a carriage, but our time train deadline is a daunting 6 months away. Hello, Peter.
Good morning, Peter. Welcome to Llangollen.
So this is it?
This is it. This is the 1912 Great Northern Brake Composite Carriage.
Where on earth did you find it?
Well, came from the Severn Valley Railway. They said, if you want it, give us £10 and take it away.
10 quid for
Which
this?
we did.
I mean, you know, it doesn't look great, but it just...
No, it certainly doesn't look great.
God, blimey. Right, well, let's go inside and have a look.
Fine.
Very exciting. Wow, it's quite a big area, isn't it?
This was what was originally the first-class compartments.
Oh, yes. What are you going to do with it now?
We're going to have it as an open saloon area. There'll be loose tables and chairs and a very plush carpet.
Loose tables and chairs?
Yes.
So rather plush?
Yes.
Luxury
We've
apartment?
still got to try and maintain the first-class bit.
But pretty scruffy, Peter. Got a lot of work to do.
Very scruffy, I'm afraid. It's been neglected for a very long time. Probably 40, 50 years.
Let's go and have a look back here. Come here.
Right.
Yeah. What's all this?
This is the guards department.
Oh, I see.
And the first-class lavatory. That's the handbrake, which the guard would operate.
Blimey, you have to spin it round?
He has to spin it
Purely,
round.
purely by hand?
Purely by hand.
And that's only where the train is stationary you use that, is it?
Yes, and it only affects this coach.
So how do you stop the train?
To stop the train, with this lever here, the guard can lift that in an emergency and the train will stop.
I
As
see.
it destroys the vacuum in the pipe.
Our carriage is called a brake composite because it has both a guard's compartment with brake controls for the whole train and both first and third class compartments. The composite carriage allowed railway companies to provide multi-class accommodation in one carriage and so reduce costs. By this time, second class had been mostly edged out by railway companies who wanted to keep first and third class as distinct as possible, separating the lords and ladies returning from the London season from the factory workers set for the seaside. So where are we going now?
This is the third class area.
Now, this is a corridor, isn't it, Peter? Is this a new development in 1912?
Relatively new. They were introduced about 1890. This enabled passengers to get to the lavatory and also to get to the buffet car.
This is the kind of thing I can remember travelling in the industry as a kid. I mean, and there were pictures on the walls and mirrors and...
That's
goodness knows
right.
what.
You can see here where the picture was, and that's Truro Cathedral. The one over there is Harrogate, and in the middle there'd be an oval mirror.
And all that is going to be recreated. To make the carriage accessible, the first-class compartments will be replaced by a wheelchair-friendly first-class saloon with plush carpets and upholstered armchairs in red. But the third-class compartments will be restored as they were, less comfy than first class, but with upholstered purple seating and polished teak panels. Well, let's go look at the far end then.
Right,
down
let's
the
go.
corridor. Yep.
This is the end where the gangway was.
Oh my goodness, I remember as a kid walking from carriage to carriage, the whole thing shaking around. I was scared stiff. Now, what have we got here? Is this the toilet?
This is the toilet, yes.
This one is the third class, the other one up there is first class, isn't it?
That's right.
Is this much sort of scruffier than the other one?
It's not as well appointed. Let's put it like that.
I'm looking forward to seeing it finished, Peter, but I think I might myself use the first class one when I come to use it. Is that right?
Oh, both be very good, Peter.
The trolley may be the smallest and tightest room on the coach, but going to the loo on the railways has always been a big problem, both for the passengers and the railway companies themselves, as Henry Cole has been finding out.
Now, in Victorian times, spending a penny was costing the rail companies a pretty penny. Originally, there were no toilets on board the carriages. Everyone was crammed into these compartments with no ability to move around the train. Even in the late 19th century, toilets were a rarity, meaning special refreshment stops were required every couple of hours.
Can you imagine 300 people getting off the train to use half a dozen loos within 10 minutes? But where there's a will, there's a way. Now, the Times was filled with classified adverts for very strange things. Like, for instance, Walter's celebrated railway convenience. Now, that, I think, was a balloon that you strapped to your leg so you could relieve yourself discreetly. For the people who didn't want to be discreet, however, you could stand up, open the window and, well, you get the idea. But women had a different solution. They would carry a hat box. But there wasn't a hat in it, oh no. There was something much more flowery. And that was a chamber pot.
Today you can thank this chap for the fact that you can pop to the loo at 90 miles an hour.
His name was Edmund Helsinger von Weldegg, and he was the saviour of anyone who got caught short on the lines. Because it was him who came up with the corridor coach, this neat little passage that ran alongside the compartments to allow the passengers to go to the loo at the end.
This simple idea sped up the entire railway system, as trains no longer had to stop for those so-called refreshments.
There is one downside to this new convenience. Even today, some coaches still flush directly onto the track. Ugh.
But before we can restore our toilets, there's a little bit of work to do on what's underneath. Our Grizzly runs on bogies, its 8 wheels attached to frames, which are then attached to the coach body by a single pivot called the central casting. It's been at least half a century since anyone has checked them out. And there's 20 tons of coach sitting on them. So the first task we have is to jack up the coach on this massive jack here and see what these bogies are looking like. Carriage fitter Martin Perry is here to show me how to do it. Is he going to wreck the whole system?
It could do.
Oh my God. Stand by, here we go.
Here we go.
Hold your hats, everybody.
If you keep your full fresh, we'll go all the way up, yeah. We've got the lads on the outside keeping an eye on the jacks and making sure everything's safe.
And it's all holding together.
Yes.
Okay, let's go and look at it, shall we?
Yep.
Whew, it was hard work. First time I pushed 6 tons along. Anyway, now she's totally exposed here. Everything is easy to look at, and they can check all the nuts and bolts and everything and make sure she's ready for action. Fingers crossed. While the bogies are being checked, the team get on with stripping out rotten wood and sanding down the panels. But being almost solid teak, the good news is that the main body is doing pretty well for 100 years plus. The bad news is that the huge cast-iron bearings that attach the bogies to the coach are troubling Chief Coach Engineer John Davis.
Unfortunately, when we remove the bogies from the vehicle, the actual casting on the coach is cracked, as you can see from these two here. These castings get damaged when there's a shunting movement going on, and they will need repairing. Could have done without it, yeah, definitely.
With the team unable to move the carriage indoors until the problems on the castings are fixed, it's holding up restoration on the main body of the coach. It's a serious setback so early on in the process. I'm in Llangollen, Wales. By the 1860s, the railways had led to a boom in tourism, opening up previously remote places like Llangollen here to visitors from across the country. Today, Llangollen continues to draw thousands of tourists, no longer as part of the UK rail network, but as a heritage line, manned by an army of engineers and volunteers. And here behind the worksheds, we're now 1 month into the restoration of our 1912 Gresley brake composite carriage. She's been lifted off her bogies, as you can see, and the team are now very hard at work pulling out the old rotten wood and stripping down the old paint and varnish. I love to see the passion and dedication these guys put in. This is an ambitious project. There's 3 third-class compartments to restore, plus a first-class saloon, a brake compartment and 2 onboard loos, so the team need to get cracking. But they've been held back by bigger issues, beneath the coach body itself. There are suspicions that the central casting that attaches the bogies to the coach may have microscopic cracks, and the team have called in an expert to test them. Half the weight of the carriage rests on this casting, which means it's a critical component. But cracks can be seen by the simple use of a magnet and a white paint containing iron filings.
What we have here is a little flaw there, that black line, which has been revealed by the magnet. That will be in need of repair, because that could potentially create chaos, a catastrophic accident. We've got a crack here, up there, and in through the central bore of the boss.
Though these are hairline cracks, the risks, if they spread, are too great to ignore. To fix the castings, the team will need to send them to specialists in Derbyshire. While they're waiting, they get to work on the wooden body of the coach. To preserve the historic character of the carriage, this team are restoring the old teak panels, meaning imperfections dating from its use during the World Wars will be retained. But some sections are beyond repair, so alternatives have to be found. Now, Peter, here's a teak panel. It's got a crack in it. What on earth are you going to do with that?
Well, we're going to have to glue them back together.
Where'd you get this from?
This teak panel came from Scotland, where we managed to retrieve some. In England, they used to cut the coaches in half and set fire to them, basically.
Yes.
In Scotland, they sold them to the farmers. We used them as hen houses and sheep houses, and we went round them in the 1990s, retrieving what parts we could.
What would that cost if you were to buy some?
I've been quoted £50 a square foot.
What?
But having said that, it's unobtainable because it's a protected species.
In the 1860s, nearly all the teak used on the railways was from the ancient forests of what was then British Burma. Almost all of those great trees were cut down long ago. Teak is now one of the world's most endangered species of wood. As a result, sustainably produced teak is incredibly expensive. So rescuing vintage teak panels like this is the team's best option. Right, let's do the gluing then.
Right. What we're going to do next is glue these 2 pieces back together to form one panel using this special expanding glue.
Right.
Which we just lay in across here.
Just pop that in there.
Yep.
It's important to get the grain in line, so we'll just juggle it till we're there. Then we have to put the weight on.
Yes.
And after 24 hours, it's dry. And you see where the line of glue is, because it's expanded. And then we varnish it, and it comes up like that.
And nothing will break that joint?
Well, I wouldn't say nothing, but...
OK, well done. Excellent.
It's as strong as it was originally.
Extraordinary. How many panels have you got to make?
We've got about 30 panels to do, but some of them are 19 feet long.
You've got a big job to do, mate. The outside might look traditional, but the inside of this carriage is beginning to look like something many of us would recognise. By 1912, most carriages had something we take for granted today, a communication cord for use in an emergency, and this carriage is no exception. Henry's been discovering how and why it was invented.
In the 19th century, passengers began to clamour for a way to communicate with the driver after a grisly murder of a passenger in first class. As a result, the communication cord was born. This was one of the early ones.
To call the attention of the guard and driver, passengers must pull down the cord, which will be found outside the carriage, close to the cornice. Not better open the window then. A short, sharp yank on the cord would ring a bell in the guard's van to alert the guard of any imminent danger. Perhaps not the most practical system.
By the time our carriage was built, it had become more sophisticated.
The communication cord is attached to this valve. This valve opens, it doesn't ring a bell, it actually applies the brakes to the entire train. Hence, for improper use, there was a huge fine. And the guard will get you. Why? Because it also operates this little flag which tells them which carriage pulled the cord.
Back at the shed, there's good news. The repaired castings have been returned.
What we got here is our centre casting, which is come back from the welders, and it's been machined, so it's fit, ready for popping underneath our coach. With having the castings being sent off, we've actually lost time with the coach being outside. It's a big relief to see these back. There we are, done. The coach is all back down on its wheels now, so we'll be able to take it back inside and start on the roof. I think we'll make up time now. Once it's inside the workshop, we'll catch up. Oh, we've got to sound confident, haven't we? Yeah, we'll get it done.
After 2 months of stalled progress, the team are desperate to get the carriage under cover and take a look at the roof. But when Richard gets up there, he finds some bad news.
What I've discovered as I've taken the canvas off the roof, some of the boards here that have lower down on the roof has got saturated with water, and over time it's just completely broken down the timber, and so I can stick my fingers straight into it and it's just all crumbling. So that'll all need to be replaced eventually. It can be fixed. It might have to be cut away. I'm not sure whether we'll have to lift the roof. Hopefully not, because that's an incredibly big job. But hopefully we can cut away the bit that's rotten and just slide it in, slide the new piece in.
The carriage is over 60 feet long, and roughly a fifth of the roof is damaged.
We couldn't have really anticipated that this rail would have been rotten as much as it has. We've got such a tight timescale. We've got to really be careful on how long things take us. Time's very much against us on this project. So.
We're doing this for a limited budget in a finite time, and we're almost halfway through it, and we're not halfway through the restoration. So there's going to be a lot of midnight oil burnt before this coach is finished.
We're midway through this stage of my exciting time train project. Bringing back to life the first of our 4 iconic carriages, including a 4-wheeler from the 1860s. a royal carriage from 1887, and a Pullman dining car from the 1960s. When all the carriages are finished, they'll travel from different corners of the country to be joined together as our time train. 100 years of railway history, driven by me. This first restoration is a Teak beauty, designed in 1912 by Nigel Gresley, one of the greatest railway engineers, who went on to design the most famous steam locomotive in the world, the Flying Scotsman. But this restoration has been beset by problem after problem. Last time we saw the team, they discovered large sections of the roof were rotten. Now the planks have been replaced, the pressure is on to make it watertight.
Today is a big day. We've started canvassing the roof, which is putting down the bedding compound and then pulling the canvas along the top and to try and straighten out all the creases.
Come on, out you come. This has got to be one of the worst jobs you can do on a roof. So this is like a sealer. If you don't get this right, water will get into the roof, which will ruin all the work.
The roof needs to be done as quickly as possible before the compound dries off. And it is a 2 or 3 man job.
Seems a lot of hard work just to be covered up again, but it all needed to be done. Not the nicest smell in the world.
You'll be dreaming of yellow ochre in your sleep tonight.
Better not go too far that way and then fell off the roof again. I need a resupply.
I think we're going to need another load of tins, you know. I don't think we're going to have enough. Hey?
You need some more?
Yeah. Like emergency, I need it. Took us 8 to do the rail mirror.
I've got 8.
I've come to the conclusion that nothing's straightforward on this carriage. You think it's a straightforward job, but very often it isn't.
With the bedding compound running out, the team try to thin down what they have left. Finally, the roof is covered, and the last of the canvas is being smoothed out. 2.5 days after they started, the job is done. It's 4 months into our 6-month schedule. I want to see if the coach is going to make it onto the tracks, ready for our time train. Oh, is she coming on, Peter?
Yes, we've had quite a bit done since you last were here. And the corridor connections are on, the roof's on.
Now, how would you describe the problems you've had in the last few weeks?
Gargantuan. There's no other description for it. Everything that could go wrong with this coach has gone wrong with it. We had the first problems with the bogie castings, which we found were cracked, which we didn't expect. There was far more rotten wood on the roof than we ever anticipated.
Do you ever ask yourself why you bother to do this?
I do every day.
Well, why do you bother?
Well, the heritage of this carriage is astounding. You know, it's 105 years old. It's taken people to 2 world wars. It's taken people to holidays all over the country.
Amazing. You're bringing tears to my eyes.
I am.
Anyway, are you going to finish it, Peter?
We are going to finish it. We undoubtedly have to finish it. We're working
so.
7 days a week. It's going to be 15 hours a day, I should think. But I've got quite a good team, so we're going to crack on with it.
You certainly have a good team.
It will be a magnificent achievement when it's done.
Let's have a look inside. Okay. Oh, Peter, you've got a lot of work to do here.
We have got a lot of work to do here.
This looks terrible.
It does, but it will look better. We've got to finish off the ceilings. The wiring needs to be done down the centre. There's seats to go in here and panelling to go up there. There's the glazing to do. We're not that far away, really. I know it looks a mess.
This is a first-class saloon. It's going to be open with lots of easy chairs.
Lots of easy chairs, occasional table to put your drinks on.
Oh, it'd be lovely. Now, Peter, please tell me the third class is not as bad as this.
Peter, it's nothing like as bad as this. Why don't you come and have a look? Here we are. This is compartment 3.
Yes.
It's almost done, as you can see. The seats are there.
Almost done sounds to me a slight exaggeration, if I may say so. Look at the roof.
Oh, the ceiling won't take 5 minutes.
What? Come on.
Ceilings are fairly simple to whack up.
I wish you luck, that's all I can say.
Thank you.
One reason the interior is taking so long is because this carriage was fitted with electric lights, which was still a novelty in 1912. And Henry has been exploring why it took so long for the humble light bulb to make it onto the main line.
Back in 1912, the idea of lighting a whole train with electricity was proving slightly problematic. If you were reading a book like this on the railway, it was either by gaslight or this newfangled electric torch.
The big problem with using electricity on trains is the fact that you can't just plug them into the mains. You have to generate the electricity on the move. Built in 1895, the London, Tilbury and Southend Railway fitted this system, which cracked the problem.
Just like my torch, the lights in the carriage are powered by all these batteries, which in turn run off this, and this is the clever bit. This is a dynamo. Now, the dynamo here is in turn fed by this belt that runs off the wheel of the carriage. Simple, but electricity took a long time to take over.
It wasn't until the 1930s that most carriages had electric lighting, meaning our 1912 Gresley carriage was in the vanguard.
It all means the end is in sight, so I better crack on with my own preparations. Once all 4 of our carriages are restored, we'll put them together for one very special journey, creating a unique time train. 100 years of railway history, pulled by a locomotive, driven by me. Being a loco driver was a highly prized position in the 19th century. The training took decades. Boys would start at around 14 years old. The first job was just cleaning the locomotives. Reminds me of my days in the army. It was the cleaner's job to get locomotives ready for service each morning, but the firelighters would build and light the fire itself to get her warmed up and in steam.
Little and often is the approach.
Malcolm is my instructor, making sure I do everything in exactly the right way.
So what we're doing now is we're just laying a thin layer of coal in.
Yep.
Then we're going to put some wood in, set light to the wood, and that burning wood will eventually set light to the coal.
Here we go. Right up the front of the firebox. There she goes. Now comes the exciting bit. I light up the cloth covered in paraffin. That is going to light the fire inside the firebox. Here we go. There she goes. Yes. Beautiful flame. Here she goes. Yes. Even when warm, a little engine like this can take up to 3 hours or more to get up to full steam. So the cleaners and the fire lighters would have to get up very early in the morning indeed. Now Fireman Nigel is showing me another part of the early morning routine. Nigel, is it hot enough in there?
Yes, should be hot enough.
Here we go, here we go. This is how you got your breakfast in the old days of scheme. Just a couple of eggs on the shovel and Bob's your uncle.
Should take a minute or two, no more than that.
Here it comes, there we are, a couple of nice eggs. Well, 1.5 eggs anyway. After 3 or 4 years, a keen lad would graduate to the role of fireman. That'll be my next lesson. Firemen would work for decades before getting a promotion. Few would make it to the coveted position of engine driver before their mid-30s or even 40s. I've got a lot to learn before I can be the driver of our time train. Back at Llangollen, the team are turning their attention to the finer details. But the to-do list reveals there's still some way to go on the interior. And fitting the furniture is throwing up its own set of challenges.
There we are. Just for when the train goes around the corner.
Yeah, it's, you know, HS2 and all that. You know, what we do.
That's the first seating.
It's been a long journey for the team. But Chief Peter Lund is hopeful they may be turning a corner.
Well, it's going a lot better than I thought it was earlier. Most of the mechanics are done. There's still a lot to do in the compartments. In these projects, it's always the little things at the end that take the time. I don't want to get confident. I think we'll get there, but the number of things that have gone wrong so far with this carriage, some other things could go wrong quite easily. So we'll just take one day at a time. Once you get carpets and tables and chairs and things like that, and a glass of bubbly on the table, everything will be wonderful.
The final day has arrived. 6 months ago, this coach was little more than a skip on wheels. Thanks to the dedication of the team, it's been transformed. Now I'm coming to see it for the final visit before it joins our time train. Hi, Peter.
Morning, Peter.
Your big moment has come.
The moment has arrived.
Are you all ready?
We are all ready for you.
Is the coach all ready? That's what
Coach
matters.
is ready.
I hope so. It's going to be a very exciting moment. I can't wait.
I'm just going to couple up now, and then we'll draw it out, and you'll be able to see her in all its glory. You were very doubtful last time I saw you.
I was extremely doubtful, quite frankly, and I should be surprised if she's really finished. I'm going to be surprised, am I?
You are going to be surprised, I promise.
All right, OK. In the past 6 months, this carriage has had its castings repaired, 30 teak panels restored, the roof part replaced and recanvassed, and the interior completely refurnished. There we go. Oh, that's useful. That's very lucky. Peter, it's a miracle. I saw her 6 months ago. She was a wreck.
Yes, it was.
Beautiful varnish. What a wonderful sight. Carrying the name of her designer's famous loco, the original teak panels have been polished to reveal the deep beauty of the wood. And in restoring the original panels, this team has kept the long history of the carriage alive. Interesting, all this wonderful old sort of mottled area here. What's that mean, all these marks here?
Well, these are the original panels, probably from 1912 when the carriage was built. The black marks are where they did temporary repairs during the war and afterwards, subsequently rusted and stained the wood.
Where the teak panels were beyond rescue, the team used wood salvaged from carriages abandoned all across the Scottish Highlands. They used genuine antique wood rather than settling for modern substitutes. She's a genuine antique, then. This is really what she looked like.
Yes.
You're proud of yourself,
I'm
Peter.
very proud of it.
And the team?
The team are fantastic.
Great work, great work. Inside, the panelled corridor has been restored to its full glory. Wow, Peter, this is a transformation. Wonderful. Authentic details such as the leather straps on the windows have been lovingly crafted. And period lighting has been painstakingly sourced from across the country by Peter Lund. First class?
This is the first-class saloon.
Very nice indeed. And you've got beautiful old lights here.
Yes.
And the wood looks magnificent.
The framing's all teak like the outside, but the panels are light oak.
And rather nice straps here, the beautiful little straps on the windows.
It's a very primitive way of opening windows in 1912. You open that, and down that comes.
Well, I can remember that.
And that's it.
Mind you, I wasn't born in 1912, but beautiful. It looks so
1912.
authentic. It looks so genuine. Into the compartment. Oh, my goodness me, Peter, it takes me back to my childhood. All I need now is a Beano comic and a Mars bar or something, and all the pictures and the mirrors. Lovely. Paintings have been meticulously sourced to match the original pictures and set in Victorian frames.
This is the architecture compartment. There we've got Runcorn Bridge and the bridge at Conway, Ribblehead Viaduct and St Pancras Station.
What a lovely lot of pictures. And there's mirrors, too.
Yeah.
And the seats beautifully upholstered, even though it's only third class. Nice luggage racks. It's been transformed since I saw it. Would you say you were proud of all this? You
Oh,
must be.
absolutely. I think it's fantastic. I mean, this is what I wanted to do with it for the 20 years.
Nice. Very nice. The carriage is taken off to be coupled up to a steam locomotive. And I'm heading to Berwyn Station to meet it and the key members of the team for its first test run. And here she is. Isn't that a really beautiful sight? She looks absolutely gorgeous in the sunlight.
Peter, how are you?
See ya. Great.
Come aboard, come on.
My dear Henry, what do you think of her?
Mate, she's fantastic.
Isn't she beautiful?
And it's not just me, everyone's
Here
here.
are all the lads. Hello, Martin. Hello, Peter. Hello, Richard. So, Peter, how's she riding, do you think?
She's riding absolutely wonderfully. Rides better than a modern carriage.
Richard, are you happy with your work?
Yes, for the first restoration I've done, it's I'm pretty pleased with how it's
First
gone.
one you've
Yeah,
done.
First
Well, you
restoration.
should be proud of me. What about you, Martin?
Extremely proud of it, yeah. Really, from the ground up, really excited about this one. Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
You know, you're approaching middle age now.
That's very kind of you.
Wouldn't you be rather retired and playing golf and fooling around like this?
Absolutely not. I'd rather be here any day. Look at the scenery behind you.
It's a staggering scene, isn't it? Now, how do we know she's not going to sort of... Oh,
Hang on, wait a second. Tunnel tip. Actually, I love the lighting in the tunnel. Don't you?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Perfect ambiance.
Yeah, this is a period situation.
This lighting is pretty much authentic, as it was.
Really?
Yeah.
So, oh, here we come out
Here
of
we
the tunnel
go.
again. And there's that marvellous view again. It's a sensational railway, it really is.
Would you do it again?
Yes, yeah, definitely I'll do it again, yeah. It's keeping the history of what British Railways were, and it's something I'm very passionate about. Everybody always says to me how lucky I am to do something that I enjoy doing. And I do count myself very lucky.
Good. And your satisfaction sitting here today in this
Yeah,
carriage?
yeah, of course, a great deal of satisfaction.
Without you young guys coming through,
Exactly, yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
we'd be lost.
Younger people like me and Martin, you know, it's down to us to keep this kind of thing alive.
When you see, like yourselves, how happy you are with the actual finished product, this is what heritage is all about. It's all about getting something, making it as it was, and showing it off so everyone in the future can actually enjoy it.
People have said to Peter that to restore this coach in 6 months is impossible, but you've proved otherwise.
We have proved otherwise, but it's with enormous cost, not just in money, in stress. I mean, halfway through, I was thinking, how can I get out of this?
But you have to have those moments in restoration.
Yeah, you
Otherwise,
do.
you don't get the satisfaction at the end. And you've created something for future generations to enjoy.
Exactly.
How good does it get?
For me, this gorgeous Grizzly coach represents the real railway's last hurrah. It was built at a time when railway companies thought of carriages not just as vehicles for making money, but as the stuff of dreams. Next time, we're off on holiday, heading to the Isle of Wight to restore this tiny carriage from the 1860s, the very dawn of the railway age. Oh, my goodness, we can't be serious.
So,
Her restoration involves some beautiful craftsmanship.
All the shapes and whatever that were in the original, like sort of glass, we copied over.
And you did all these buttons and everything yourself?
that's right, yes.
And her past tells the story of why passengers first flocked to this island's railways.
For seaside holidays and buckets and spades.
I've always loved trains. I'm never happier than when I'm tinkering away with my own train set up here in the attic. Signals, stations, sidings, old carriages, new carriages. It is the greatest fun. I'm Peter Slow, and this has been my passion ever since my dad bought me my first toy train when I was just 4 years old. I enjoy mixing different carriages from different eras, making my own unique train. Which got me thinking, what if I could do this for real? Well, me and my partner in crime, engineering whiz kid Henry Coe, we thought we'd get onto a mad idea. In order to delve into the history of the railways, we're going to restore 4 iconic carriages.
We're getting together a band of brilliant restoration experts from all around the country. Each group will bring back to life a carriage from a different era, from an 1860s four-wheeler to a 1960s Pullman dining car. We'll even restore a royal carriage and a Teak monster designed by the man who made the Flying Scotsman.
I'll keep across each restoration. This is terrifying.
And I'll explore what it was like for the passengers who travelled in them.
It's so luxurious, you know, it is fit for a queen, isn't it?
We've challenged all our restorers to complete their work in 6 months, when we'll put the carriages together to create a real-life time train, representing 100 years of railway history. Isn't that a really beautiful sight? And the icing on the cake? I'm going to fulfill a childhood dream. I'm going to learn how to drive a steam locomotive. Can we go much, much faster?
No, 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 just a little bit.
Oh, wonderful. So I can take our unique train on her first incredible journey. In the 19th century, the railways changed the face of Great Britain, laying the foundations of the modern world we live in today. The world of cities, industries, mass transport, and even seaside holidays. The Victorians embraced this vision, building a remarkable 5,000 miles of track in just 40 years. For our next restoration, we're going back to the boom time of that railway revolution, to an island where our railway heritage has been brilliantly preserved. Grab your buckets and spades, we're off on holiday. I'm puffing along on the Isle of Wight Steam Railway, which can trace its roots right back to the 1860s. We're here to restore a tiny carriage with a big history. 19th century railway mania brought 55 miles of track and 36 stations to the Isle of Wight. All this on a piece of land just 25 miles across. These foundations live on, preserved by the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. And here, at its Haven Street HQ, a unique carriage awaits restoration. A coach that'll take us back almost to the dawn of the railway age. And I can't wait to see her. Oh, my goodness. We can't be serious. This thing's a total wreck. Blimey. And here she is, the forlorn remains of a small four-wheeled coach, purpose-built for the Isle of Wight Railway when it opened in 1864. 150 years ago, this was the last word in Victorian-era luxury rail travel. But in the 1920s, she was scrapped and converted into a holiday chalet. Rescued in the 1980s, she's been sitting on this temporary wagon at the Isle of Wight Steam Railway ever since. Now we want to restore her to her former glory as a carriage, back on the tracks where she belongs, once again taking holidaymakers up and down the Isle of Wight line. As restorations go, this one is going to be pretty tough. If anyone can realise our dream, it's two men who've dedicated their lives to steam heritage. Peter Jardine is a veteran of dozens of restorations.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
He'll look after the bits on top, the carriage and the interior fittings. While in charge of the bottom, the chassis, wheels and axles, is Mark Brinton. He's been working on the railway since he left school.
Yeah, if it doesn't fit, it's all my fault.
Henry Cole is working with Peter, cleaning up our little coach in the railway's own workshops. Oh, gracious. Henry, this is chaotic.
Well, I think organised chaos is the way to describe it.
Now, how would you describe the state of this coach?
Tired, very tired.
Tired? Now, what was this coach like 150-odd years ago?
Originally, it was a composite coach, had first class and second. You're standing in the first class compartment. There was a second class piece up that end and a second class compartment over the other side here.
Quite posh first class? What was it like?
It would have been very nice. It would have been deep blue cloth buttoned armchairs, armrests, headrests, carpet.
And you think you can do all this within 6 months?
Yes.
I just don't believe you.
I think he can.
Do it.
But I think the key, Peter, is that the actual structure, the frame is solid, isn't it?
The frame is sound, yes.
Anyway, show us the second class.
By all means. Mind the floor, there isn't one.
Right.
You can go first then, Peter.
I do.
My goodness, there really is no floor. You weren't joking, Peter.
Nope.
So what's this?
This is a second class compartment. There obviously wasn't a door there, it was a partition.
Yes.
You had five-a-side seating on padded benches. That was your lot.
It may be second class with some beautiful little blue windows up there.
The blue windows, yes, they're a feature of this sort of stock. They go throughout the whole train. including
Are they
the
all
first.
complete?
No, a lot of those are damaged and we'll have to replace those.
And can you get those remade?
We will have to get those done, yes.
Yes, gracious me. This truly is an ambitious project, but if the team can pull it off, it'll be more than worth it. The plush original interior of the first-class compartment will be recreated with rich blue lavishly upholstered seats, wallpaper instead of peeling paint, and soft carpets underfoot. In second class, there'll be new leather benches and the blue glass top lights will be repaired. Most of the exterior wood cladding will be replaced, giving a highly varnished teak finish. The biggest challenge will be the underframe, the chassis to which the wheels are attached. This will be made from scratch, of wood, not steel, and result in the only fully wooden standard gauge coach still running on the railways, anywhere in Britain.
The reason why our carriage has been preserved for over 150 years is for the same reason that the railways came to the island in the first place. For seaside holidays and buckets and spades.
It was the railways that brought holidays to the masses. And here on the Isle of Wight, Queen Victoria set the trend. She regularly took the train from Windsor to travel to her holiday pad here, Osborne House. Once she gave the island the royal seal of approval, everybody wanted to come.
Many took the morning train from London and then hopped on the steamer from Portsmouth to arrive here at Ryde Pier Head, the only mainline station to be built on a pier. And it's still running today.
Most holiday makers headed for the posh hotels that were being built in resorts like Shankling and Ventnor. And there's no denying that the people who puffed along in our little coach had a bob or two to spend. But the holiday trade here was a microcosm of a revolution that changed the lives not just of the well-to-do, but of the working classes too. A revolution in leisure travel for the masses. Holidays for the likes of you and me got a boost in 1841 when a certain Thomas Cook chartered a passenger train to take 500 people on a day trip from Leicester to Loughborough. The 24-mile jaunt cost just a shilling. It was a huge success and inspired Thomas Cook to put on regular, cheap excursion trains. By the 1860s, the railways had created a tourism boom, with towns like Blackpool catering for millions of working-class people enjoying holidays for the very first time in their lives. It might have played a small part in this great revolution, but our little carriage is a lasting link to the very dawn of the leisure age.
Oh, it's nailed up here somewhere. Right in the middle there.
In the workshop at Haven Street Station, Peter Jardine and his team are hard at work, bringing our carriage back to life to carry 21st century tourists. Having been outdoors for 90 years, much of the cladding is rotten, and Peter has to assess what can be saved.
There's nothing wrong with the teak pillar at all there. The main problem is going to be getting the steel bolts out of it, which are very heavily corroded, and we stand a good chance of just shearing the heads off. So we may end up having to drill those out and then plug the holes again. There's a big build-up of scale underneath it there. You've got to clean all that lot out and get that joint back down again tight. And this end here, that corner's just gone. Again, the main pillar's pretty good. It wants a little work on this side, but it's pretty good. But the main timber's rotten and split across this whole end, so we're going to have to put a whole new section in across this area to replace that.
With no plans to work from, everything has to be documented before it's pulled apart.
I mean, all of this has been photographed before we start, so we know exactly what's where and measurements for where everything's got to go back.
Most simply falls off, but the doors prove a bit sticky.
The last time the doors were opened was probably about 1920 when it was first grounded as a chalet. The carriage lock's jammed down, so we're having to knock the hinge pins out of the door and then knock the door open from the hinge side so we can release the locks. That's moving.
This calls for a lesson in the less delicate skills of railway restoration.
You probably want a bigger hammer on that.
Come on, boys, you've only got 6 months.
That's it. Right, gently now.
Well done.
Looks like someone's nailed this one shut, which is nice of them. That's it. Yep, there's the nail. Right, it's the first time open for 90 years then.
But getting the door off is only the first step. Next, it's got to be restored, and that's where the hard work kicks in. Luckily, there's a host of train-mad volunteers willing to give up their evenings and weekends to lend a hand. Hard to imagine now, but in just 4 months' time, this sorry little holiday carriage needs to hit the heights of Victorian first-class luxury travel. It's a monumental challenge. It's summer on the Isle of Wight, a quintessentially British holiday island welcoming almost 2.5 million visitors every year. The steam railway is one of its most popular tourist attractions. It's a place to indulge your love of trains and immerse yourself in the romance and nostalgia of the steam age. Over in the Carriage works, the team is 6 weeks into restoring our 1864 carriage. No holiday for them. They've been working long hours, and I'm dying to see the progress they've made. Oh, dear me. Peter, I hate to say this, but honestly, this coach looks worse than it did before. No roof, no windows, no doors, no nothing almost.
Well, that's right. We've taken all the junk off it now and stripped it back to the good bits, and now we're working through sorting those out.
What have you managed to save for reuse?
About 60–70% of its original steel. The main tippers and so on are good, though we've refaced them. A lot of this framework's sound. Again, there's localised repairs everywhere.
That's amazing. I mean, the detailed work you've done here. I mean, you can see how terrible it was, and yet look at the facing you've done here. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? So what happens next?
Next job, we're replacing the roof hoops, which are being made at the moment, and then we can put the original roof back up on it and take it from there.
I wish you luck, Peter.
Thank you.
This modest carriage may not look much, but it represents the start of a mode of transport we now take for granted. This timetable shows the very route our little carriage took. Thanks to Queen Victoria, train travel in the 1860s felt new and exciting. First-class passengers paid 2 and 6 for a return from Ryde Pier to Shanklin, a shilling more than those in second class. There was a real romance to train travel back then that Peter and his team have to recreate, especially here in what should be the luxurious first-class compartment. It's nostalgia for those times that makes the Isle of Wight Steam Railway such a success. It's been a working heritage line since 1971, and most of the people keeping these trains chuffing the lines are enthusiastic volunteers. Today, 12 locomotives run on 5 miles of track, stopping at 4 immaculately preserved stations along the way. But back in the 1960s, the end of the steam age meant the island's mainline railway was facing oblivion. Lines were being torn up, carriages burnt, and locos scrapped. What survives today owes its entire existence to the efforts of a determined gang of teenage train spotters, desperate to salvage whatever they could. They fundraised like mad and got enough to buy this locomotive and save a section of track. Word got out, more enthusiasts got involved, and the Isle of Wight Steam Railway was born.
This was the original locomotive.
Yes,
and,
yes.
That's where we started.
Nearly 50 years on, the original loco's still a star attraction. And this lad in the glasses, Ian Whitlam, is still heavily involved in the railway.
We were 16 at the time, started raising funds, and we bought the locomotive.
How much?
I think it was about some £950. Good. Which was more than scrap price at the time, but nowadays you'd be talking more like sort of $250,000.
Blimey. If you hadn't done it, the thing would have been scrapped.
It would have been scrapped in situ, yes.
Today, the Isle of Wight Steam Railway welcomes over 100,000 visitors every year. And now our little four-wheeler is being restored to run on these lines again for the first time in nearly 100 years. To please all those train-mad tourists, every last detail must be perfect. The next challenge is to recreate one of the carriage's most distinctive and luxurious Victorian features. There are 12 of these ornate glass window lights in all. The fashionable Victorian fleur-de-lis design is etched into the glass, not just stuck on. And they're only found in this type of coach, of which ours is one of the last surviving examples. But workshops able to craft exact replicas of the 19th century glass don't grow on trees, which is why our windows are being recreated 275 miles north in Liverpool by specialist glass engraver Ron Kett.
We've never done a glass for a train before, so we do get some really unusual jobs, like, you know what I mean, and the important part for us is to make people realise, show people around, that can do work like this, like, you know, and it hasn't got to be ripped out and thrown away, right? So it's got to be restored.
Stained glass was making a comeback in the Victorian era, and this royal blue colour was all the rage. The original design is copied exactly, printed, then stuck on the glass. A precision-guided sandblaster then etches out the design. Voila, a brand new panel, but like the old one in every detail.
Because it has been done by hand, all the shapes and whatever that were in the original, like, sort of glass, we copied over, even the mistakes.
Despite our restorers spending dozens of man-hours so far, the carriage is nowhere near ready to fit the window glass. At the moment, the body rests on a rusty old wagon frame, but it's not the original. Designing and building an entirely new underframe is Mark's only option. And to accurately recreate our four-wheeler's relatively primitive technology, Mark needs to make it not of metal, but wood.
It's a challenge because nobody's built a four-wheel carriage underframe in wood for a great many years. Certainly not in my experience. I'm more used to dealing with metal underframes.
21 feet long and 9 feet wide, the frame will be built out of solid oak. Onto this will be bolted 2 sprung axles to which the 4 wheels are attached, as are the buffers which run right through the frame to cushion any impacts. When it finally rattles along the Isle of Wight line, our completed four-wheeler will be almost entirely wooden. In the early days of the railways, that was the norm, but it poses some problems for our restorers. Henry's been putting it to the test.
As a construction material, wood does have a few problems. It can warp, or like this bit, rot. It does have another problem as well, and that is that wood is strong, but not that strong. You don't want that happening to a coach load of passengers. To get round the problem, the Isle of Wight team have decided to use engineered wood. This stuff looks like solid wood, but actually it's lots of pieces of wood all glued together. It doesn't warp, and it's a huge amount stronger. Now that's impressive.
Back in the workshop, that engineered wood is being delivered in giant flat packs. It's a big day for Mark and the team.
Good so far.
Holes nicely drilled.
Relief to receive these parts at long last. Hopefully it'll save us a lot of time here when normally we would have to cut all these holes and drill, shape all the parts.
I've never been any good at assembling anything in a flat pack. Let's hope Mark is. Read the instructions.
Yeah, if it doesn't fit, it's all my fault.
Getting it to fit means the restorer's old mate, the hammer, is deployed.
Go on then, quality hammering. We need to make sure that this underframe is square and level because if it isn't, then the wheels sit at angles to one another, then potentially the vehicle will either give a very bad ride or ultimately could come off the track.
I conveniently timed my arrival for when the hard work was over.
Are you chuffed with it?
Yeah, I'm very pleased with the way it's gone together. Pieces arrived exactly as we wanted. We've had to do no adjustments or anything like that.
So you got the measurements right?
Yep.
Is there any one thing that you're still worried about?
I'm a little bit concerned that whether the buffers will fit because we've got long buffer rods that go half the length of the vehicle, and we've got them bearing on in three places. Now they've got to be perfectly in line to allow the buffers to slide nicely.
Otherwise they'll chafe.
They'll stick.
Yes. Stick is the right word.
Summer is almost over. But still, the steam trains puff back and forth on the Isle of Wight, filled with the last of the holiday makers. We're now more than halfway through our restoration schedule, painstakingly bringing back to life a historical treasure that once carried our Victorian ancestors along the island's lines. This is a real labour of love for Mark and Peter. The teak panelling is starting to be replaced, hinting at the quality of finish to come. With the new beams on, she'll soon have a roof. Not only is Peter a woodworking wizard, he's laying the foundations for richly upholstered seats, the kind a Victorian first-class passenger would have expected.
Jack of all trades, master enough.
This team is achieving something truly wonderful. Without their efforts, this rare piece of railway history would be lost forever. We're making restoration history, bringing back to life four of the most iconic railway carriages that ever ran, to create a lasting legacy back on the tracks for any of us to travel on. In Yorkshire, Birmingham, North Wales, and on the Isle of Wight, teams of heritage specialists are working round the clock to restore these neglected wrecks to be part of our unique time train.
Mate, she's fantastic.
Isn't she beautiful? Here on the Isle of Wight is one of the oldest surviving carriages in the world.
Gracious.
A tiny coach with a huge place in railway history. Built in 1864, she's from the heyday of Queen Victoria's railway revolution, puffing along the newly built tracks that crisscrossed the young Queen's favourite holiday island. Peter Jardine and a band of volunteers have been working flat out, stripping away a century of rot and decay.
And this has been sat in a hedge for the last 90-odd years, so nobody's looked after it.
And now they're starting on the interior finish.
Slow and steady as it. You can't rush it. If you rush it, you mess it up.
5 months in, I've come back to see the fruits of their labour.
Oh, my goodness. Peter, this is a transformation. I mean, the last time I was here, this was spidery frame, but none of this beautiful wood shining at me now. Well done.
Coming together, Neil. A little way to go yet, though. We've done all the heavy work.
Not much time, though.
There isn't much time at all, no.
Seems like quite a bit of work to do yet.
There's a lot of work to do yet, yes.
Right, I'm going to grab a ladder and come and join you.
Yep, by all means.
Extraordinary to see it almost finished like this.
Yes, it's getting there.
Mess. I don't mean to be rude, but the mess it was when I last saw it.
Inside, there are even seats. And the beautifully restored blue glass panels are almost all fitted. As a treat, Peter's saved one of the last ones for me.
Now, Peter, this is a beautiful piece of glass panel here. Now, what do we call this?
This is a top light.
It's a top light to go in up here.
Right, yes.
And it's beautifully done. This is a reproduction because the originals were hopelessly damaged, weren't they?
That's right. We didn't have a full set of the originals, and the originals weren't toughened glass, which they need to be for modern purposes.
Should we stick it in place?
Yep, by all means.
I've got my mastic here.
That's it.
Here we go. Mastic on. All right. Oh, that's it. Right, Peter, all ready for you. I think I've got the mastic all round.
Need to go up this edge as well.
Yeah, OK. In it goes.
That needs to go in.
Beautiful. Fits like a glove.
Yeah.
What a lovely sight that makes, that beautiful royal blue glass and the wood surround. It's going to be the best top light of the whole lot.
To finish off, I'm adding the beading.
Right, these are some of the bits of trim which hold the glass in now.
For me, these little touches evoke the romance of the first great era of the railways.
Fits well. That's good. Look at that.
There's no rest for Peter, though. He's straight on to yet another highly skilled job.
Peter, you're sewing all of this by hand. You can't do it with a machine.
Not round the edges like this, no, because it's deep pleated cushions. We've got a lot of folded edges and changes in thicknesses all the time.
Take a long time, won't it, to do this whole cushion?
It does, yes. It takes about a day to do a cushion.
And you did all these buttons and everything yourself?
That's right, yes.
Is there anything you can't do? I mean, you've done this, whole coach here. You're a metal worker as well?
Actually, I'm a qualified mechanical engineer. That was my job.
Oh, yes, of course. Extraordinary.
In the first-class section of our carriage, this craftsmanship is all about passenger comfort, creating a sort of cosy parlour to ride in. Our carriage really is well on the way to being back to her original best. But let's not forget that for 60 years of her life, she looked nothing like a railway carriage at all. Henry's been investigating the craze for converting these old carriages into something altogether different.
Once she'd been retired from service on the railways in the 1920s, our carriage was converted into a holiday home. Here she is, nestled at the bottom of a garden in Bembridge, on the east of the island. It was what happened to many carriages built in the 1860s when they reached the end of their working life. The island's hotels might have been booked up by society's first-class passengers.
But those with a more bohemian vibe had different ideas. They wanted something like this, a carriage converted to a holiday home. Well, it's not exactly Osborne House, but have a look. There's a nice kitchen diner, and through here, lovely double bedroom with ensuite facilities. What more do you want, Your Majesty?
The trend caught on, not just on the island, but across Britain.
And if you couldn't afford to buy a carriage, you could always rent one off the railways themselves.
From the 1920s, converted carriages were transported by the railways to beauty spots located in sidings on quiet branch lines. They rented them out by the week.
This is a British Rail brochure from 1958 showing the location of the carriages and the prices. For a family of 4, it was 10 quid a week, plus the cost of the return ticket. What a great idea.
I'm heading down the main line towards Shanklin to visit a rather special fan of these holiday carriages.
But I'm hopping off halfway to meet a lady called Sarah Vernon. Now, Sarah used to holiday in our carriage when she was a child.
She's lived on the island all her life.
Sarah?
Hello.
Henry, how are you?
Hello.
Lovely to see you. Now, Sarah, you have a special relationship, don't you, with our carriage?
Well, it was our staple summer holiday. That's when we came every year. It belonged to my grandmother, because she'd bought a house with a garden, huge garden, and an overgrown orchard, and the carriage was right at the bottom. We actually had the Enid Blyton holiday of our dreams, really, you know, making caves in the undergrowth of the orchard and so near to the sea where we were. It was fantastic. It was a joy. Absolute joy.
And have you got any pickies? What are these?
I've got
Show
a
me
few.
these. Look at that. Now, talk to me, because that looks nothing like the carriage now. I mean, it looks like a house. I'd never really recognise it.
No, I think my father put the awning up. But otherwise, I mean, it did look. It was very obvious to us that it was a carriage with these windows and that special kind of clunk of the old trains when you open and close the door.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Oh, my word. So when you were holidaying, could you ever imagine it returning to being a carriage on the rails?
No, absolutely not, no. My parents donated it to the Steam Railway Society and thought, well, you know, they might sort of keep it as one of their showpieces because it had started to fall apart, but never in a million years.
Well, we might just have a little surprise for you.
We've invited Sarah to join us on board when we take our old holiday home out on the tracks for the first time. And we're almost ready. The finishing touches are being added to Mark's spectacular underframe.
Yep, it's looking good. And bingo.
And Peter's gearing up for the biggest day in the restoration so far, joining this to this.
Worst case scenario, of course, it ends up on the floor.
It all means the end is in sight, so I'd better crack on with my own preparations. Once all 4 of our carriages are restored, we'll put them together for one very special journey, creating a bespoke time train.
100 years of railway history, pulled by a locomotive, driven by me.
This is my second lesson, learning to be a fully trained up driver.
Here she goes.
So far, I've been taught how to light the fire and cook my breakfast.
Just a couple of eggs on the shovel and Bob's your uncle.
Now I'm moving on to the next stage in the process, the job of fireman, keeping the fire and the steam going while on the move.
Nigel, I feel as if I've shoveled about a ton of coal so far. Have I not done enough?
No, only about half a ton if you're lucky.
Oh, look, that's roaring up. Now, Nigel, I've done all the shoveling of the coal of the farm, and that's all I have to do, is it?
No, there's far more than just firing the locomotive. You've got to make sure that the water in the boiler is at a good level, and when it isn't, you've got to feed water in through the injector. If you'd like to put some water in now.
Oh, OK.
Now I'm injecting cold water from the tank into the boiler to produce more steam. It's a lot more technical for these guys, but for me, it's a lot of fun.
Right, have we done that correctly, roughly?
Another inch or so on the water valve towards the driver.
The water is open then?
Yeah, that's it, it's open, yes, a little bit more.
Oh, more open?
Yes, more open, about an inch or so, that's it. That's
out there. And what does that mean for this gauge here? What does that mean?
So that's the held pressure inside the boiler barrel.
Ah, right. And 120 is OK, but you like a bit more?
120 is OK.
And if it goes up past 160 odd, what's that mean? There's a red line there. Is it now time to jump off the train?
No, because we have the safety valves which will stop the pressure going any higher.
As a fireman, I need to keep an eye on the gauge to stop the pressure going up too high. But the pressure's good at the moment, so I can sit back.
Can I look at the view?
Yes, please.
Oh, beautiful. Wonderful. He says whistle out there. Shall I whistle? Here we go. Wonderful. What a treat. What an inferno there is in there. Just look at that. And that's all my hard work.
That certainly is all your hard work.
Well, it certainly feels like it's been hard work anyway, I tell you. Well, I've only been at this an hour, and I'm knackered. On an average day, I'd have been shoveling half a ton of coal altogether. Tough work.
But it'll all be worth it when I'm a fully qualified driver in charge of our magnificent time train.
Woo-hoo!
Autumn has come to the Isle of Wight. The summer tourists have left, and the 6 months is almost up for our historic carriage restoration, rebuilding the only Victorian wooden coach running on the railways in Britain. But there's one final challenge, and it's a big one. They need to marry the carriage body to the new underframe.
It's a big moment. First time this has actually been put onto the chassis proper.
It means lifting 2.5 tons.
Right, we're ready for the lift. Once the thing's up, nobody goes underneath the load. If it moves, just get out of the way. Start lifting.
It is a big day today because we'll see whether the body fits on the underframe.
OK, right. So we're lifting the body off the chassis it's on now. Take them up steady, and we'll wheel that chassis out the way, bring the correct one in under it, and then put it down onto that frame. OK, that's good and solid, yeah. Your side all right? Lift it about another ½ inch. There's always a risk when you're doing this sort of work that the body might move enough to damage it or break a window or something. OK, ready to go up? Worst case scenario, of course, it ends up on the floor. Are we all happy? All ready? OK, start pushing gently. Push. One. That'll do. All happy? OK, chocks under. Lower gently now.
Solid this side, Pete. I'm relieved it actually fits because until you actually put them two together like this, you're never quite sure.
Yeah, we can relax and have a cup of tea now.
It's a triumph for the team. Now it's just a case of ticking off those very last jobs on a 6-month-long to-do list. Only a few days to go now before our little Victorian coach is unveiled to an expectant public. It's taken the team over 130 days, some of them very long ones, to get her back on the rails again. It's finally time for the finishing touches. Our first and second class transfers and red paint on the trim. They're lubricating the axles using pads soaked in oil. And there's time for a final bit of spit and polish. You can see it's more than just a job for this dedicated team. The care and attention to detail going into this little carriage is truly inspiring. My goodness me. And I've come to offer my congratulations.
Peter, unbelievable. You've finished.
Almost. It's not far off now. There's a few finishing off jobs to do.
I think you've wheeled in a completely new coach. That's what you've done. This is not the old coach we saw.
It is, I'm afraid, yep.
Amazing. Can I come in?
Lock your feet first.
Oh, OK. Wipe your boots. Yes. Absolutely amazing sight this is. I mean, really and truly breathtaking. I mean, this is unbelievable. Was it a very close shave?
It was close, yes. Very tight.
What was the most difficult bit?
Seating certainly was a great deal of work.
But it's beautiful, beautiful. Can we take her outside now?
Yep, ready to go.
This is going to be even more exciting.
The big moment has arrived. 6 months of incredible restoration work, and now, for the first time in nearly 100 years, our gleaming carriage is back on the tracks where she belongs. Glorious.
She runs so beautifully, Mark.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness me, she does look absolutely wonderful.
Barely 6 months ago, this carriage was a total wreck. But now, look at her. Her first-class compartment oozes luxury, truly reminiscent of its Victorian heyday. Second class not only has a floor, but seats too. And there's beautiful period detail here, especially in those meticulously crafted top lights. And the outside is just as stunning.
Look at this work here, it's just beautiful. How is this crest done?
That's done as a transfer by the company that made them in 1864, strangely enough.
Beautiful. And this lovely little red frame around the first-class sign here, that's obviously authentic,
Oh, yes, that's copied from the original.
Beautifully done. Well, now, Mark, let's have a look at the underframe. This is a real work of art, isn't it?
Yes.
The engineering under here is just as impressive as the finish on the carriage above. But there's one thing I can't see: brakes.
That's correct. In 1964, when she was built, she had no brakes.
So what are we going to do about this being run on the railway?
For now, we will put it within a train that has brakes.
OK, well, let's hook her up and take her out then.
Let's go.
Great. It was way back in 1864 when this tiny carriage was first part of a train.
Coupled up for the first time. Wonderful, Mark. Wonderful.
Her long and rich history has seen her carry Victorian holidaymakers back and forth to the seaside resorts of the Isle of Wight. She's been scrapped, converted into a holiday chalet, and now she's come full circle. To celebrate her wonderful rebirth, she'll be pulled by a steam loco from the same era. And Ian Whitlam, the man whose dedication helped to save the Isle of Wight Railway, is here to do the honours. And for this special journey, a very special passenger.
I think I can hear her. Oh, here she comes now. 90 years since it's been on the track. Now, are you excited or what?
Well, of course, I'm over the moon. I can't believe it's actually happening.
Here's Peter as well.
Fantastic.
Hey!
Sarah! How lovely.
Mr. Snow, how lovely to see you.
Now, what do you reckon?
It's just amazing. I wish I could think of a better word. It's extraordinary. The handles, the glass, I absolutely love.
This is amazing, isn't it?
Well, it's a summer house on wheels now.
Should we go for a spin? Yeah, let's go off for a
Come on,
ride.
then.
Oh, that would be
Come on,
fantastic. That would be fabulous.
Sarah, do you recognise your summer house?
Well, in a strange way, yes. I mean, even though obviously all the work has been done, which is amazing, but yes, I mean, I really am overwhelmed. It's glorious. I wish my parents could see this. I really do.
Absolutely. Peter, your first trip in this wonderful carriage. How are you feeling?
Yeah, very good. Yes, it's what we've been working towards.
Are you thrilled?
Yeah.
Mark, you're looking far too comfortable over there.
Yes, it's a very good ride.
Very comfortable.
I'm feeling very proud of it. It's a culmination of 6 months' hard work.
I must say, Peter and Mark have done an extraordinary job. I love the elegance and the craftsmanship of their restoration.
And with her completion, I think I'm just a step closer to the dream I have of coupling together a time train of iconic coaches.
Next time, we jump forward 100 years to celebrate one of the greatest names of the 20th century, Pullman.
This is the golden age of the train. Not just a proper cream tea, but a beautiful dining car to eat in.
We're restoring a 1960s dining car, rediscovering a lost world of luxury and elegance. It's a huge challenge.
Well, this is the kitchen. This is chaos.
And it will require a touch of magic to pull it off.
I've always loved trains. I'm never happier than when I'm tinkering away with my own train set up here in the attic. Signals, stations, sidings, old carriages, new carriages. It is the greatest fun.
I'm Peter Snow, and this has been my passion. ever since my dad bought me my first toy train when I was just 4 years old. I enjoy mixing different carriages from different eras, making my own unique train. Which got me thinking, what if I could do this for real? Well, me and my partner in crime, engineering whiz-kid Henry Cole, we thought we'd get onto a mad idea. In order to delve into the history of the railways, we're going to restore 4 iconic carriages.
We're getting together a band of brilliant restoration experts from all around the country. Each group will bring back to life a carriage from a different era, from an 1860s four-wheeler to a 1960s Pullman dining car. We'll even restore a royal carriage and a Teak monster designed by the man who made the Flying Scotsman.
I'll keep across each restoration. This is terrifying.
And I'll explore what it was like for the passengers who travelled in them.
It's so luxurious, you know, it is fit for a queen, isn't it?
We've challenged all our restorers to complete their work in 6 months, when we'll put the carriages together to create a real-life time train, representing 100 years of railway history.
Isn't that a really beautiful sight?
And the icing on the cake?
I'm going to fulfill a childhood dream. I'm going to learn how to drive a steam locomotive. Can we get much, much faster?
No, just a little bit.
Oh, wonderful.
So I can take our unique train on her first incredible journey. For many of us, this is the golden age of the train. Not just a proper cream tea, but a beautiful dining car to eat it in. Now, certainly, this kind of luxury dining is now all but confined to a few heritage railways. And on the main lines, you're lucky if you get a plastic cup and a bag of crisps off a wobbly trolley. But in the heart of Birmingham, they have a dream to change all that. Tyseley Heritage Engineering Works is one of Britain's biggest. Acre upon acre of sidings with dozens of locomotives and carriages being brought back to life. And one of them is ours. In a siding over there is a massive challenge. A 1960 Pullman dining car. Not a carriage, a Pullman is always a car. And first-class Pullmans always had a unique name. Ours is called Eagle. And here she is, a once luxurious car from the last batch ever produced for the British Pullman Company, right here in Birmingham. Her distinctive brown and cream Pullman livery is in a shocking state. And as our first carriage to be made of metal, not wood, her bodywork has succumbed to the restorer's nightmare: rust. Hard to imagine now that she was once part of a pristine Pullman fleet as they carried well-to-do business travellers in and out of London's King's Cross on the East Coast Main Line right up to 1978. She's now a shadow of her former self, but remains a last great beacon to the iconic Pullman age.
What I love about this car is it's got 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future.
She was built in 1960 as a modern replacement for the aging pre-war Pullmans, and even refurbished in 1970, the seats deliberately redesigned with the upmarket businessman in mind. She's a child of the Formica era, and there's plenty of that in evidence. The challenge in restoring this carriage is to recreate the huge romance and luxury of a Pullman dining car while respecting its modern design. And let's not forget the most important bit of all, the kitchen. Pullman passengers expected 5-star cuisine, and this one needs to cater for dozens of discerning diners on the move. Getting this back to working order is an almighty challenge. Luckily, here at Tyseley, there's a top-class restoration team primed for the job. Dave will overhaul the car's heavy engineering so she's safe to run.
Instead of being like that, it's gone slightly like that.
Les will strip out that all-important kitchen and work on the interior.
Carriages used to be £1,000. It was a bit expensive when you just got a mortgage. I bought a bus instead.
Carriage maker Stuart leads the repair of the bodywork, both outside and in.
We call the volunteers the carriage fairies.
And Nigel's the artist. He's got to give this rusting hulk a top-quality paint finish.
Hopefully there's not too many surprises.
Michael Whitehouse is the boss of the works. A man, like me, who's been mad about trains since he was a boy.
Steam engines have been in my family ever since I was born. They're part of the DNA, they were part of the holiday. Beach in the morning, steam trains in the afternoon. Nice, warm, oily smell, it's irresistible.
Before I can get a look inside our Pullman, we need to shift her into the works proper, using the turntable. And, a bit of fun, I'm getting a lesson with Tyseley Chief Engineer Bob Meanley.
This looks like the control handle here, isn't it?
It most certainly is, yes.
Right, so what do I do?
There's the pointer. Turn the handle until it's pointing there.
Right, here we go. Yes, we're on.
And we're off.
What a wonderful machine. This thing's carrying a huge weight, isn't it?
Yes, about 40 tons, Peter.
40 tons going round in circles. Extraordinary. I've always wanted to stand on a locomotive turntable.
You need to shut off, Peter. We're going to go by. We've gone by.
Oh, sorry. Hang on, Bob, we've gone too far.
Yes, we have a little bit, Peter, so we need to go back.
Yep, Roger, I'll go this way. It's coming in the line. Gone past it.
Yes, never mind.
Back a bit.
Just back a little.
Oh dear, never had this trouble with the swingometer.
They went right there.
Just there.
Where have we done it?
That's it. Well done, sir.
What fun, that was terrific.
Once Eagle is finally in her new sidings, it's time for a closer inspection.
Michael, so this is your Pullman. It's fantastic, isn't it?
It will be fantastic, Peter. It's a bit tatty at the moment.
So what are you going to do to this now to get it up to scratch?
Well, this coach has got to run at 100 miles an hour, so we've got to make sure it's structurally sound.
What's the tricky thing to do?
The tricky thing is the inside looks pretty tatty, but
The outside looks terrible.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, awful. But the inside needs reupholstering and new carpets, and we've got to deal with the original Formica. So people will be happy to pay a supplement to have a good meal in this Pullman car called Eagle.
But if there's any chance of that happening, the team need to sort out this kitchen.
God, this is going to need some work. This really is going to need some work. Michael, this kitchen looks a huge challenge.
It is a bit of a challenge because it's 60 years out of date, and modern technology and safety appliances have moved on a lot since it was built. And this fridge doesn't comply with any standards at all.
But how many people are going to be working in this kitchen?
Oh, well, we'll have one chef, and he'll probably have about 4 people to help him. There is a pantry as well, so they have to be pretty cute in ducking out of each other's way.
5 people? There are 2 of us here now. We've got 5 people.
Yeah, it's very cramped, and we're standing still. Imagine when they're bouncing along at 100 miles an hour. It's pretty bouncy.
Amazing.
All of this luxury was aimed at the 60s premium business traveller. They would pay a hefty supplement of 16 shillings on a ticket from London to Edinburgh. And in return, they'd get a gentleman's club on wheels. There was even a private compartment, perfect for hammering out business deals on the move.
This is where all the deals were done, coming out of London King's Cross in the evening with the champagne.
So this is a mobile boardroom kind of thing?
Mobile boardroom, that's right.
Restoring this lost world is going to be no small task. This beast is truly massive. A 5-star restaurant on wheels. It's based on a British Railways Mark I carriage weighing 40 tons, state-of-the-art back in the 60s. But the whole thing now has to meet modern safety standards. A tough call for something designed in the final days of steam. With its 25-seat dining room and separate boardroom to boot, this is by far the biggest restoration we've undertaken. And on top of that, we need to be able to cook and serve a 3-course meal from that kitchen. But then, as Henry's been discovering, Railway catering has always been tricky.
Before the Pullman car, railway food was regarded as so bad, the Punch magazine sent it up. Are those sandwiches fresh, boy? I don't know, sir. I've only worked here a fortnight.
Welcome to railway catering circa 1875. Now, the idea of a restaurant car or even a buffet was unheard of back then, mainly because you were crammed into a compartment and you couldn't move around the train. But you could buy a hamper in the station. For 2 and 6, the London North Western Railway would offer you the Democrat. In it was some bread, some ham, some cheese, and also a bottle of pale ale to wash it all down with. But the posh lot, 2 carriages up in first class, they would be offered the aristocrat hamper for 5 shillings, and that would include a half-pint jug of sherry.
You don't get that on the West Coast main line. Certainly more appealing than a pre-packed sandwich. But one American visionary was transforming the romance of railway catering from simple straw hampers to haute cuisine.
We might still be eating out of those railway hampers were it not for a man called George Pullman, whose name is on this car and our car, Eagle. From the 1860s, reimagining railway carriages as restaurants on wheels, Pullman first built his empire stateside. It made him a fortune. But Pullman didn't just build coaches. His idea was to operate them, putting them on other people's lines and making people pay a premium to ride on them. In 1874, George began exporting his franchise. The first to arrive in Britain came as a sort of flat pack, made in America, reassembled in England, and it changed the face of dining on our railways. On a Victorian-era Pullman, the catering was more lobster and champagne than beer and bread, and diners' bottoms nestled on soft furniture. It was the height of fashion, luxury, and craftsmanship. It's this level of craftsmanship that makes Pullman coaches such icons, and so appealing to restorers like Les Simpson, who's the first to start work on Eagle.
Everyone understands the beauty of a steam locomotive, but do they appreciate the work that goes into the rolling stock? Well, that's where your journey's made.
And it's lucky he feels this way because he's got to unscrew every piece of this massive interior by hand and by himself.
Another tight one. Yeah, there's got to be pushing up to 3,000 screws in one carriage. The slotted screw, you can't use power tool. They slip off the head, because the heads are worn as well.
After Les has unscrewed pretty much everything on Eagle, the others turn up.
Right, are you ready, chaps? This may be heavy.
Stripping out Eagle has been a time-consuming task. Everything they've taken out needs to be either refurbished or recreated before it can be put back in. A massive restoration like this is not a job for the faint-hearted. Tyseley in Birmingham is Britain's biggest heritage railway works, a £1 million business and testament to our crazy love affair with the railways. They have around 30 locomotives and a dozen carriages in restoration, all drawing huge crowds of enthusiasts on their regular open days. And it's where our great Pullman car, Eagle, is being brought back from the dead. We're now 2 months into the restoration of Eagle, one of the last of the great Pullman cars to be built in the UK. She represents the final hurrah of the Pullman era, a throwback to the prestige and glamour of a 1960s railway dining car. The inside has been stripped bare,
But as befits a luxury Pullman, it's vital that Eagle looks the part on the outside too. But this work is revealing a host of nasties, which carriage work expert Stuart has to fix.
Oh, it's a lot better, Stuart, than it was when I last saw it. Uh-oh, problem here.
Yes.
Still something to do there before you start rubbing down and so on.
Yeah, we'll need to cut out anywhere where there's perforations, so across the bottom of the sill and then down here. Weld in fresh steel, and then we skim over with this filler.
And then you rub it all down?
Rub it down and then start building up the paint.
How long does the rubbing down take? How many weeks have you been at it?
Good 3 weeks on this so far.
Blimey.
Mostly handwork.
Better get on with it then.
OK, just put on the mask.
Even helping out for 20 minutes or so, you realise how tough it is. Priming the bodywork is the next stage to getting Eagle shining as new and worthy of the brand. The team needs to recreate the famous brown and cream livery, first adopted by the Pullman Company in 1906. Eagle's got to look the part and be up to the job, because as well as joining our time train, she will ultimately be carrying paying passengers on a special mainline service. Michael oversees their tourist operation here at Tyseley. It was his dad who first opened the place as a centre for steam preservation.
He was one of the world pioneers in rescuing railways, and a group of mates rescued the Tyneside Railway after the war in 1951. It was the world's first preserved railway, and it never looked back.
But it's Michael's train set now. The line from Tyseley was once part of the Great Western Network. It used to run south through Cheltenham to the West Country.
The line stops these days at Stratford-on-Avon, but you can still experience what it was like to travel on in its heyday by taking the so-called Shakespeare Express. And it's this service that Eagle will be joining when she's finished.
It's all about recreating the star quality of the Pullman, from the days when anyone who was anyone dined on board. This is the quintessential classy image of a Pullman. Discerning passengers waited on in their plush seats by attentive stewards. A Pullman offered luxury and glamour in equal measure, an icon of romance on the railways. And it's this heady mix of nostalgia and elegance that the Birmingham team is trying to recreate here on the Shakespeare Express. Not least in the kitchen. Like any chef, Ben Mason's goal is to make mealtimes special. But on a train, there are unique challenges.
How on earth do you do it stuck in here?
I would like to say it's magic, sir, but...
It's tiny.
It is tiny. It's a feat of organisation.
Now, we're stuck in a station at the moment, but when you're rocketing along at, what, 75 miles an hour, how on earth do you manage it then?
You get used to the motion, but let's say a driver is less than gentle with the coaches. We have had some pots of soup come off the stove and straight onto the floor before, at which point there were some very choice words said to the driver, and he didn't get his dinner either, so...
Today, I'm joining Michael on board for a taste of Pullman luxury. We're sampling home-baked ham with minted new potatoes and chanterelle carrots, expertly prepared by Ben in that tiny kitchen.
What is it about eating on a train that's so lovely?
It's just fabulous fun, moving scenery. You can't do it in a restaurant. We're going to interesting places. These are very nice coaches, they're lovely. The Eagle's much nicer. It's a first-class Pullman car.
Unbelievably. We're sitting in a second-class coach now.
This is a second-class Pullman car.
So good old Eagle, when she comes along, she'll be even smarter than that.
Exactly.
So let's hope that Eagle makes it to the deadline.
Here's to Eagle.
Whilst the management and I relax over a top-class lunch, the restoration team is hard at work. Expert welder Dave is focusing on Eagle's metal bodywork and how to make her safe enough to add to Michael's fleet. Safety on the railways is all about how carriages are built and what they're built from. Henry has been investigating.
Right up to the 1920s, carriage bodies were still being constructed out of wood. Teak for the frames and cladding, pine for the roofs. But the cladding in teak was becoming seriously expensive. So the companies had to find an alternative material. And they found it in this sheet metal. Before the 20th century, steel had been incredibly expensive, but the invention of the blast furnace meant rolling mills were able to produce cheap metal sheeting just a few millimetres thick. Carriage companies were using sheet steel to clad their carriages, screwed into a wooden frame. It may have been cheap and it may have been quick, but it didn't make the carriages any stronger. After the war, British Railways devised a whole new way to engineer a carriage. And this is it, the Mark I coach. Now the entire structural framework was steel, with crash pillars at the corners for protection, and the whole thing securely welded to the chassis.
Steel made carriages much safer. And for Eagle, it means she'll be able to speed along at 100 miles an hour. But only if Dave can save some of her safety-critical parts from that old enemy, rust.
So now, why did you have to take that piece out?
This section here forms part of what they call the crash pillar. Vehicles doing 75 mile an hour plus, in the event of an accident or anything, this is designed to absorb any impact and as a crumple zone, really, and take the impact through it. But as you can see here, the water's come down through the channel. It's got nowhere else to go, so it just rots and it just corrodes. So you go from that thickness there, which it should be, which it came out of the factory with, to that thickness there, which is absolutely nothing, which will take no, impact at all.
So this is a vital piece of metal. It absorbs.
Oh yes, yeah.
As
you can see, somewhere in its life, it's already had a prang.
Yes. Yes. So what next? What are you going to do about it?
Basically, what we'll do now is we'll clean all this area up and we'll weld another new piece of top act section into there.
Big job.
Well, yes, yeah.
All yours, Dave.
Yeah, right. We'll get this one welded in there.
A truly successful restoration relies on incredible attention to detail. And that's Stuart's real strength.
This is about the first time I've done this. Because this font is unique, we need to copy it because it will be obliterated within the next couple of hours in preparation for the repaints. Sign writing seems to be a bit of a lost art nowadays. Most of what we do is vinyl transfers.
Using Stuart's tracing, this unique lettering can be perfectly recreated after Eagle's rotten old paintwork is redone.
Hopefully we won't have to repaint her for another 5 or 6 years.
Soon the team will have to tackle this, the detailed design of the Pullman crest. But for now, our coach painter, Nigel, has just started on what will eventually be 10 coats of paint. It's our first glimpse of how good she can look. But the inside is a long way off. Les is still beavering away on the basics and finding more hidden problems.
We've had water ingress into the windows, and it has literally rotted the plywood away.
And as for that kitchen,
oh my goodness me, this is terrifying.
I'm a true train enthusiast and can while away many happy hours up here in my attic. But there's nothing more fun than playing with the real thing. So across the country, 4 teams are working flat out, bringing back to life iconic coaches built between the 1860s and the 1960s. Here in the heart of Birmingham, we're attempting to revive a grand Pullman car that was scrapped in the 1970s, a victim of twin competition from the motorways and business air travel. Eagle is one of only a handful left, and she hasn't run in decades. Are we on schedule to change that?
It's quite a few weeks since I last saw Eagle. Back then she was a mess. The insides were a tip, the outside full of holes. I'm hoping for a change.
We're over halfway through our 6-month schedule, and the team here at Tyseley must make sure Eagle is ready to join our 3 other restorations for our time train.
Oh my goodness me, she's really looking like a Pullman now. Beautiful brown paint down here, cream up there. This is a real Pullman car. What a fine sight. What else have you got to do outside now?
Once it's varnished, it will be lined out, the crests will be applied and the lettering.
Can you make it? That's the question.
I think we'll get there, yeah. I think we'll go down to the wire, but yeah, we'll be there.
Stuart sounds confident enough, but our focus isn't just on the signature brown and cream paintwork. What about the guts of this Pullman? And whether we can cook in here?
Oh my goodness me, this is terrifying. This is supposed to be the heart of this Pullman car. When I saw the rest of the car, I thought, well, this is looking rather good. But this is chaos. I mean, this is the kitchen. What on earth are we going to do? You couldn't even boil a kettle here right now.
We need clean surfaces for food preparation, new burners to cook on, and that old fridge has to go.
The old fridge, which was the original, 57 years old, was condemned. It ran on gas and there was damage inside, so we decided to remove it and replace it with a more modern appliance, possibly energy efficient. So we've dismantled the fridge now, and this is just the tail end of the bits and pieces.
With so much still to do, there's nothing for it but to get a little extra help.
You won't take all the texture out of it, but if you can just flat it back.
People power is deployed to bring Eagle's luxurious wooden panelling back to its original glory.
My granddad and my dad would be very proud. They were both drivers and firemen down here at Tyseley. So that's where it all comes from, really.
These people are all volunteers. Every Thursday evening, they come from miles around to get involved, driven by a commitment to preserving Britain's rail heritage.
I want to sort of go back to that boyhood dream and get involved with the railways, and Tyseley is a fabulous place to live out the dream, really.
We tend to call the volunteers the carriage fairies because we come in on a Friday morning and there's been a quantity of work done. We can move on to the next stage.
If we can get some of this basic work done, then it saves the other guys a lot of time. It's great to make a contribution like this.
This hard work will make all the difference to this interior finish. All of Eagle's 40-ton weight rests on just 8 wheels, and it's those wheels that form the most safety-critical elements of the entire coach. And that's what Henry's been looking at.
Now, one of the most important safety men on the railway back in the day was a chap called a carriage and wagon inspector, also known as a wheel tapper. Now, he'd have a hammer like this and he'd walk along the carriage or engine tapping the wheels. Now, if they made a nice crisp ding like that, then all good. But if they made a dong, that could mean there was a very serious crack in the wheel.
Also vital is the shape of the wheel, where it sits on the rail.
Now, you might think that a wheel is actually flat, but it's not. It's angled. And also, there's a chamfered edge just here. Now, if this edge gets worn, the carriage may wobble about or even derail.
To avoid that, Eagle's wheels will be re-profiled on this massive lathe before being refitted to the undercarriage. Hopefully, when Peter gets to drive our time train with Eagle attached, it'll be a safe, smooth ride. If he can learn how to drive, that is.
Don't worry, Henry, I'm on it.
Once our 4 coaches are all restored, we're going to pull them on a special time train. 100 years of history behind a steam locomotive.
And if I pass muster, I'm going to drive it. Madness.
So far, I've learned how to polish the brass, fire the engine.
Here she goes.
And monitor the steam. Now I'm moving on to my final lesson before graduating to driver. And that's signalling. Nigel's here to show me what to do, while Malcolm takes care of the driving.
Now, Nigel, why do I have to worry about signals?
Because when you're on the line here, the driver can't see most of the signals to the left-hand side.
So I certainly can see the signal. I see one here.
But that signal is off. That means it's OK to go.
OK to go. It's actually up on an angle like this.
It's up on an angle.
OK. It's not pointing horizontal. That's bad. That's stop.
That's stop.
Got it.
So you'll tell the driver and you'll show him a thumbs-up sign.
I see.
Because he can't always hear what you're saying.
OK.
Handbrake is off.
There's a lot more to the job of fireman than just keeping the coal burning. Men could expect to spend at least 20 years doing this job before they were allowed to graduate to driver.
OK. Woo. Signals are saying go.
In that case, you'll tell the driver.
Saying go, Malcolm.
Thank you.
More coal.
And you'll need water as well.
Will I? Right. OK. Here we here. Open.
Yes, open, please.
Signal is go.
And steam.
Is there anything I don't have to do?
You don't have to drive at the moment, not until you pass.
Next signal is go. More pressure.
Yes, you're right. We need more pressure. You better turn the water off.
OK.
A little more coal. Down the front and down the right-hand side.
What?
Down the right-hand side.
Oh, let me have look out the window. Thank you.
No hole.
I'm now doing all the jobs that would have been required as a fireman, as the driver's number 2. Stoking the fire, checking the gauge, topping up the water, and reading the signals.
I see a fireman's job is not exactly a sort of easy holiday. Well, I think I've just about cracked the job of fireman. Busy stuff. I've been shoveling all that wretched coal in and playing with the water and looking for signals and so forth. But next time, I'm going for the dream job, driving the train.
While I've been having fun, the team press on. But with no seats, the inside remains an empty shell. The Pullman's armchairs with their dusty blue covers from the 1970s need a makeover. So they're being stripped by upholsterer David Kirk.
That one stapler at the time till I extracted teeth. Always wanted to be a dentist. That is that.
Out with the old velvet and vinyl, and in with a design more in keeping with the romance of the classic Pullman era.
So the key is remembering where all the screws and plates go when you put them back together again, because there's that many.
At last, the comfy seats can be fitted back into the carriage. Just 3 abreast, lots of room for those first-class passengers. But our Pullman still may not deliver a smooth ride. Dave's safety inspection down below has thrown up a problem.
As you can see, it's clearly broken and it's not serviceable anymore. Rather than people drinking their champagne, they'll be wearing it, and the pots and pans in the kitchen certainly would be going everywhere, and the chef wouldn't be too happy. So we're going to lift the bogie up, leave the wheels behind to access the spring. We can remove the spring, replace it with a new spring, and drop it all back down and put it back together.
Simple, or so it seems.
The axle's going up with the bogie. So what we have to do is just try and ease it back out again. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. Right then, we're here. Right. That's it. Voila. It's in.
Every little setback eats into the schedule, And the little details, the vital finishing touches, like the Pullman crest, are still a work in progress. I've come to Chris Hall's Printworks, just down the road in Birmingham, where they have a rich history of creating crests for the railways, dating back to 1871. It's a trip down memory lane, to a time when every railway company proudly flaunted their brand with lavish emblems.
Now, Chris, this is a work of art, a magnificent finished crest that you've done, a Pullman crest.
In 1906, Pullman rather loftily based their logo on a royal crest, with two rampant lions holding a shield representing the four nations of the United Kingdom.
That's a transfer that you put together, which you slap onto our train. Now, how on earth is that done?
Well, we start out life with a piece of transfer paper, make stencils, and each individual crest is built up from a series of individual colours. So there's maybe 19, 20 colours in this thing.
Each colour a separate stamp, as it were.
That's right. Every day, the printer will print an individual colour. It will then kind of dry overnight, and it will go to the next colour.
One a day, one print a day?
One print a day.
So this blue harp here...
Yeah, that's right.
That little print there...
That's a day's worth of print on this job. Yeah, that's right.
And there might be 20 colours, there's 20 nights.
That's right.
So
yeah,
it's a month's work.
Plus because you've got the varnish and the contour to print on top of the job.
OK. Very meticulous process. And how much would this have cost in the old days?
Well, we've got some ledgers here, some various designations for carriages, first, second, third, luggage, and you can actually see the prices there.
So these are the transfers. 500 first-class crests on the doors will cost £5. Expensive.
Oh, don't forget the 4 shillings and twopence.
This early design will adorn a panel on the inside of the dining car. On the outside, near the 4 doors, will be an updated version, specially designed in 1960 for the new fleet of Pullmans. It will be one of the last jobs to be ticked off the to-do list. Our 6 months are almost up. When Henry and I return, Eagle must look good enough to face the world. It's 0 hour. After 6 months, it's finally time to see how the restoration of our 1960s Pullman car has turned out.
In an hour from now, Eagle will be doing her maiden run, pulled by this little beauty, the very last steam locomotive to have run on the main line.
L94 is a former Great Western Railway pannier tank engine, sold to London Transport in 1959.
Hello there.
Good morning, Peter.
She is a beauty, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a nice engine, this one.
Can we have a look at the fire?
Yes, of course. I'll
Just check you've got some coal in there.
Open the blower, make sure we've got a good fire going.
Oh, yeah, look at that, red hot. My joke, look at that. That's terrific.
While L94 gets steam up, there's one final finishing touch to get done. Paul Hughes has come in to get the name on the car. From Stuart's tracing, he's made a vinyl transfer of the original font.
I trained as a signwriter. Spent 3 years with a third-generation signwriter. Unfortunately, the world's moved on. It's vinyl graphics, but as long as you can create the right style and things, you can still create the right look. The difficulty becomes is when somebody just puts a more modern typeface on it and it just kind of looks wrong.
With the name firmly applied and looking just right, it's time for Eagle's first run in over 20 years, and Henry's here too.
I think it's more or less done, don't you? I hope so.
Later, from our Pullman's reconditioned kitchen, he'll be helping to serve a celebratory lunch for all the team who've worked so hard on the restoration. But first, it's time to pull Eagle out of the shed, back into the light, and onto Bob Meanley's turntable. It's been a stunning journey. Just 6 months ago, this Pullman dining car was rusting in a siding. To live up to the Pullman mystique, the team have had to completely strip the paint, and so that she can run at top speed safely, do plenty of heavy engineering. but has it paid off?
Oh, God. The moment of truth.
That's right.
Beckoning. Oh, my God, it's beautiful.
It's
Look at
very
it.
exciting.
Peter, look at it. Oh, she's gorgeous.
Isn't that wonderful?
Look at the finish on it.
Absolutely amazing.
Peter, give us a hug.
Oh, my dear boy. Isn't it great?
It's fantastic.
She's gorgeous.
Amazing.
But look at this beautiful emblem on the side here. Magnificent.
The paintwork is astounding.
Absolutely lovely. And what do you make of the underframe? Is that looking pretty impressive?
Mate, as they say in the trade, that's come up beautiful.
I know what it was like only a few weeks ago. I want to see inside, don't you?
Up you go.
I'm up, I'm up, I'm up.
They've worked nights to restore the wood and create virtually new seats, all by hand. Driven by a dream of making this faded interior luxurious again. Restoring the romance of the Pullman. And boy, have they succeeded.
Stuart, you must be thrilled with this.
Yes. Hasn't turned out badly at all, has it?
How would you describe how difficult it's been?
Part of the difficulty was the time scale. To do this in 6 months is pushing it. It was interesting, shall we say.
But restorers always say that, mate. If
Sure.
I'd had 2 years on it, you know.
How much nicer it could be? It couldn't be nicer.
No,
I mean,
it
the
couldn't.
wood, this is magnificent. Beautifully done, isn't it? How did you get these walls so beautifully shiny?
Through an awful lot of elbow grease, sanding it back by hand and then varnish on top.
These chairs are fantastic.
Yes, the original was a green velvet upholstery with a black vinyl trim.
It was pretty horrid, I remember
This
it.
is lush.
These are rather nice.
Gotta tell you, mate, I think you've absolutely nailed it. It is lovely. What do you reckon, Peter?
I think it's magnificent. I'm able to sit down and eat a large meal now.
Well, let's do it.
Come on, then.
Are the kitchens working?
Yes, right, let's go.
Another transformation. The cooker, the surfaces, it's all back in working order.
Wow, so this is the kitchen. Not exactly homes and gardens, but it'll do the job.
Now to get the rest of the team on board. For the first time in 2 decades, our Pullman is taking to the tracks once more. One last wheel tap from Bob, and we're ready to roll. Everyone who's worked on the restoration is on board to celebrate their achievement.
We're off. She's moving.
Nigel painted every square inch of her. Dave made sure she's safe.
All that welding was worth it then?
Yes, it's paid off. She's running again now.
Did she get a hold together while we ran?
Well, I'm sitting on here, aren't I? So I hope
Keep
so.
your fingers crossed.
Yes.
With her newly profiled wheels and the broken spring now replaced, we're promised a smooth ride. Just right for enjoying a top-class lunch.
All we need now is some food, right?
Certainly do. Yes.
There's plenty of posh nosh on the menu, and it's not just any menu.
Now, this is the Pullman menu from 1960, the very year that Eagle was built. Now, sadly, I'm not a chef, so I can't do duck or l'orange, or I think that's orange and duck or something, but I can prepare this.
Smoked salmon, potted shrimp, and a salad garnish.
Wow, that looks glorious. Michelin starred.
Yeah, well, it's a great triumph, isn't it, Les?
It sure is.
It ought to be. Les is the man, after all, who removed over 3,000 screws by hand.
We got there in the end.
Yeah, well, you said you had. Henry!
There's more to this waiting log than meets the eye.
Oh, Henry, how very nice of you.
Thank you.
That does look delicious.
There we go, boys. Oh, I've just trodden on your foot, mate. Whoop.
For me, a Pullman is all the railway should be. Not just a way to get from A to B, but a place to celebrate life in all its richness.
Eagle will soon be steaming through the heart of England, bringing back a taste of first-class Pullman luxury. But first, she'll be joining our time train for an incredible celebration of Britain's railway heritage. And to complete my dream, there's one final very special carriage to restore. Next time, a royal coach used by Queen Victoria herself.
And I'm now heading to Yorkshire, where amazingly her personal carriage survives. It's a carriage with incredible secrets.
Scrape away this muck. It's gold.
You're joking.
Which demands the very highest royal standards of those restoring it.
Queen Victoria will be turning in her grave unless you do it properly, mate.
I understand that. I understand.